Eyewitness News, Dade.
Good evening. There's been a partial verdict in the trial of 6 Miami police officers charged with beating Leonardo Mercado to death. But the jury is deadlocked on 2 other charges. Eyewitness News reporter Mel Taylor's at the federal courthouse in downtown Miami. He joins us now with details. Mel.
Well, Dwight, at this point, we do not know what those verdicts are. At this point, the jury has been instructed to go ahead and keep those verdicts, and on the remaining 2 counts, they will continue deliberating. The jury came back with a note saying they are deadlocked on 2 of the counts. Of the 4 counts, the first is for conspiracy. The second is whether or not the officers violated the civil rights of drug suspect Leonardo Mercado. 2 other counts refer to Mercado's family, who say they were roughed up by police. Even at 12 hours of deliberations, it is considered early for a deadlock.
It's early, but I think after 6 weeks in a case like this where the issues were very strongly defined, people went in, had opinions, kept those opinions, made those opinions early, had opinions about the credibility of the witnesses a long time ago, the opinion of the deceased, and no matter how you talk, this is not a complicated case. They either believe the government's case or they don't believe the government's case.
The officers on trial are Thomas Trujillo, Pablo Camacho, the only officer to take the witness stand, Charles Haynes, officers Andy Watson, Ronald Sinclair, and Nathaniel Veal. Prosecutors say Mercado was beaten in this room. The police officers say Camacho was defending himself after he was attacked by Mercado. Now, if there is no verdict tonight, it's still not clear if the jury will come back tomorrow morning or if they will be returned on Monday. Dwight, back to you.
Well, were the defense attorneys, how did they react to the fact that the jury appears to be deadlocked? Do they think that's going to be in their favor?
It's very hard to say. One can only guess what the jury is deadlocked on and what counts the jury has decided on. There's been a lot of speculation that possibly, it could be on the first 2 counts, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Mel Taylor, thank you for that live update from the Miami Federal Courthouse. Man?
President Bush made a surprise diplomatic move in the war of nerves in the Mideast today, but added the United States would not blink in this situation and that there would be no murky endings if war breaks out. The Iraqi embassy has not yet reacted to Bush's offer, but the Iraqi ambassador to France called it an important step toward peace. While the president discussed diplomacy and the United States position in the Middle East, a group of seniors at a Broward high school listened. From our Broward Bureau, Eyewitness News reporter Emily Aiken says the possibility of war in the draft was uppermost on their minds.
Government students at Hollywood Hills High School definitely had something to say about the president's comments on the Iraqi conflict.
We're not gonna achieve peace, unfortunately, without war because George Bush's diplomacy is just not working.
If he's doing it for the oil and saying he's doing it for our embassy, then that's not right.
These students are studying how our government works. They know if the president wants to double our troops in the Persian Gulf, he needs more able-bodied Americans. And that could mean the draft. So far, the president has not indicated he would reinstate the draft or call a special session to do so.
I have no plans to call a special session. I'm not opposed to it, but some feel a lame duck session is not good, that the new members should have a right to have a say.
How are you going to back 430,000 people unless you have a draft? And you can't get a draft without congressional approval.
But if there is a draft, then you all have a duty to your country.
So what about the argument that you ladies don't have to go in?
Oh, I'm going in. You know that.
It's a possibility of reinstating the draft, which really impacts these kids. Currently, there is no draft, but when men turn 18, they must still register for selective service.
It's going to have a great impact considering I'm going to be the one who's going to have to go and fight for our country.
Probably my brothers and my cousins will go to war, and because if the draft is reinstated.
What the students learned today can't be taught out of a textbook. This is a lesson they're living right now. In Hollywood, I'm Emily Aiken, Channel 10 Eyewitness News.
Students say despite their concern about the draft, they do support the president's actions in the Persian Gulf. Dwight?
In another major announcement today, President Bush made official what had been speculated for days. He nominated outgoing Florida Governor Bob Martinez as the nation's newest drug czar. We begin team coverage with Eyewitness News Washington Bureau reporter Tom Walker.
The president made the announcement flanked by Martinez and current drug czar William Bennett, who is moving on to run the National Republican Committee. Bush praised Martinez as having already contributed to the national drug control strategy for over 2 years.
A battlefield promotion, if you will, for a leader who's earned his stripes on the front lines of the drug war. Governor Martinez can and will hit the ground running. He needs no primer.
Martinez said he was delighted with the appointment, but offered few details on how he will approach the job, except to say he wants to continue the strategy of fighting both the supply of drugs and the demand, with an emphasis on reaching kids.
There's no greater challenge, I believe, than to keep our young free of drugs.
There's no challenge, I believe, greater than to keep the streets safe for the elderly and others that they can use it.
The president cited tougher laws against narcotics in Florida under Martinez, as well as expanded prison space for drug criminals. But critics of the current law enforcement approach to the drug war are calling the selection of Martinez strictly political.
If they really want to solve the problem, they look at this as a health problem and appoint someone with a broad public health background to the position rather than just a political crony.
In Martinez, the nation will see a much different personality from Bennett, whose outspoken and confrontational approach to the job kept him in the headlines. Martinez is likely to be more the quiet manager, but some question whether his low-key style will be able to keep the nation's attention focused on the drug problem.
With my warm best wishes.
But even critics say the Florida governor should have no trouble winning Senate confirmation. In Washington, Tom Walker, Channel 10 Eyewitness News.
I'm Scott Peelan at the Capitol. Bob Martinez likes to think of himself as a hands-on drug fighter, whether chopping down marijuana plants in the Big Cypress Reserve or pushing for tough drug laws in the legislature. His lieutenants claim he brings strong expertise and a solid drug-fighting track record to Washington.
When we came here, very few schools had DARE programs in their schools. Now, over 60% of all schools in Florida have them. That's direct drug education in every school, in almost every school in Florida.
Martinez men also want everybody to know the governor helped to build more new prison beds for drug offenders than any other Florida governor. He also appointed the first state drug czar, approved drug-free school zones, which call for tougher drug penalties for dealing near schools. He signed the death penalty for drug dealers law, and he speaks Spanish, an asset in dealing directly with drug fighters south of the border. Even many of those involved in drug rehab, like Kathy Wendland, told us that Martinez's efforts may be underrated.
So I think he's had a real education as governor of the state that has the #1 importation problem of drugs.
Martinez has not only picked up the support of many who are involved in the treatment of addicts, but the state's #1 Democrat has even reiterated his support. Governor-elect Childs has this message to Martinez critics.
You know, there are always people that are going to raise some concerns, but I think his experience as being governor in a state that's had the kind of problems that we've had with drugs, and certainly he's spent a lot of his time and attention trying to cope with that.
Childs is also saying he'll lobby his old colleagues in the U.S. Senate to get Martinez confirmed, which is not expected to happen until at least early next year. At the Capitol, Scott Peelan, Channel 10 Eyewitness News.
The chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Democratic Senator Joe Biden, is criticizing the Martinez nomination. He says the governor lacks the background and the record for the job. Florida Senators Connie Mack and Bob Graham are supporting Martinez. And
He wasn't a big drug bust by Florida standards. In fact, no drugs are found at all. But Eyewitness News reporter Rad Berkey tells us what happened this morning in South Dade is a major victory for a neighborhood caught in the middle of the war on drugs.
62-year-old Jesus Gomez is hardly what the people who live on Southwest 38th Street would call a good neighbor. While they work to keep their block a quiet place to live, they say Gomez sold cocaine out of his house, attracting the kind of people no one wants to be around.
And every time there was a coming and going of cars, different kinds of cars going and coming all day.
But no more. This morning, SWAT teams moved in on the house, used a wrecker to yank an iron gate off the door, and arrested Gomez and 2 other residents, Guillermo Gonzalez and Maria Quintana.
Our undercover detectives from the narcotics units made several buys here in this house, several narcotics buys before the warrant was executed.
Gomez is no stranger to police. His record dates back to March of last year and includes charges of possession and sale of narcotics and possession of firearms.
I think cases are still pending, quite frankly. You know, the system takes a while.
But this time, police confiscated the house and property under the state's Contraband Forfeiture Act, making sure today's arrests have the desired effect.
We decided that it was for the benefit of the community to use the Forfeiture Act to get these people out of here, because, quite frankly, they just come right back and start over again.
Neighbors on the street here say they have called police numerous times in the past to report the goings-on in the house, and today they say they are finally glad to see this house put out of business once and for all.
It gives bad reputation to the neighborhood.
You have the right to remain silent.
Credit for the bust, police say, should go to the neighbors who want to end the drug scourge, even if it's just one house at a time. In South Dade, Rad Berkey, Channel 10, Eyewitness News.
Now that the house has been confiscated, it will be auctioned off. The Hollywood Police Department has wound up its investigation of 3 officers accused of sexually assaulting an Altamont Springs woman last month. One of them is losing his job. Officer Stephen Nicastro will be suspended with pay for 2 days, then he will be fired. Officer David Daly will be suspended for 3 days. Officer Daniel Dunn has been cleared of all charges and will return to work immediately. A Seminole County grand jury refused to indict the men on criminal charges. Dwight?
There were some scary moments at a Fort Lauderdale daycare center this morning. High winds toppled an electric pole, which then crashed into the side of the Grace Lutheran Learning Center. Fortunately, the room hit is used only on Sundays, so no one was hurt and there was no fire. But the loud crack as the 48,000-volt transformer hit the building scared some of the children. Fire crews say the pole was rotted at the bottom. Still to come, the encephalitis outbreak appears to be waning.
But taxes are on the rise. We'll tell you which ones go up tomorrow, and Eyewitness News comes right back.
In South Florida with Michael Putney.
I'm Michael Putney. If you get arrested on Miami Beach with a small amount of drugs, police there want to notify your employer. Is that constitutional? Is it fair? Is it a witch hunt? Our topic this week.
This Week in South Florida with Michael Putney. Sunday morning at 11, only on Channel 10.
Who on earth could assemble in one place television journalists of such unprecedented talent and intelligence? Who indeed? But ABC News, we're America's choice.
The encephalitis outbreak in Florida appears to be subsiding, so the ban on evening activities in Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties is being lifted. HRS and the health departments from each county say they've ended the ban because of the changing weather, a lower mosquito count, and no new cases have been reported in a 4-week period. They urge, however, people continue taking precautions. 2 more groups have joined a boycott of the Miami area because of the city's refusal to officially welcome South African leader Nelson Mandela on his visit last June. An association of black mayors is moving its annual leadership conference to Palm Beach. And the Dade County chapter of the National Organization for Women says it will no longer conduct any meetings in the greater Miami area. And
get ready to dig a little deeper the next time you fill her up at the gasoline pumps or buy an airline ticket. New federal taxes on gasoline and air travel go into effect tomorrow. And Eyewitness News reporter Michael Putney tells us that made today a very busy one at area service stations.
Business was brisk today at this Miami service station as drivers topped off their tanks before having to pay an extra nickel per gallon tomorrow.
I just decided that it was going to be hard to pay an extra 5 cents a gallon, so I just decided to come out and do it early while I had a chance.
Today was the last chance to buy gasoline minus the extra tax, half of which will go towards reducing the federal deficit.
A nickel to help pay the federal deficit. Do you think that that's a generally fair way to help pay off the deficit?
No. Income taxes is the way to do it. Federal income tax.
Rather than excise taxes?
Yes.
The 5.1 cent per gallon tax is expected to bring in about $25 billion over the next 5 years. It'll cost an average family $28 per year.
I don't think it's going to affect recreational driving or driving back and forth to work, which obviously is necessary commuter driving.
The cost of flying is going up too. Starting tomorrow, the federal tax on airline tickets will increase from 8 to 10%. But that increase didn't cause a rush today to buy tickets.
Well, the 2% increase I don't think is going to add that much more, and people really aren't concerned with a few, extra cents.
But a few extra cents here and there eventually adds up, and the consumer always pays.
You think you might be driving a little bit less because gasoline costs more?
No, I'm self-employed. I'd be charging a little bit more.
The extra nickel you'll pay at the pumps and the other new taxes will help pay off the huge federal budget deficit we rolled up during the 1980s when we borrowed our way to prosperity. That bill has come due. In Miami, Michael Putney, Channel 10, Eyewitness News.
On January 1st, you can expect to pay new taxes on beer, wine, liquor, cigarettes, and other luxury items. Just ahead in sports, the Hurricanes get set to conquer a tall order tomorrow.
And high school football players battle it out for the championship at the Orange Bowl. Frank Ford in sports up next.
I think everybody needs a home, no matter what your age.
You can adopt a child on the next Sally.
Monday morning at 10, here on the one and only.
Kembra Marshall is out at his golf tournament, not playing too badly for a change.
Not bad. Baseball fans, I'm a little hard on Kembra when it comes to golf. Yeah. Baseball fans got a little scared this morning, but we found out that they have nothing to worry about. According to a published report this morning, Chicago White Sox pitcher and Miami resident Alex Fernandez had been in a car accident last night and was hospitalized, but both the hospital and the White Sox say it was a case of mistaken identity. An 18-year-old with the same name as the pitcher was injured. They say Alex isn't in the hospital and never was. Offensive fireworks promised at the Orange Bowl today as Miami High took on Hialeah Miami Lakes for the Section 4 5A football title, both teams averaging over 20 points a game. But it did not turn out that way. Miami High got on the board first. Kendall James around the left side on the option keep gets in to score as the Stings led it early by a score of 10-0. Tight end Ernesto Palacios of Hialeah Miami Lakes about to have his world rocked by Mike Johnson, who lays him out, but he held on to the football. 13-0, Miami High the score. Lane Kendrick with the handoff for Lakes from 2 yards out, gets into the end zone. That cut the margin down, but the Stings defense prevented the Trojans from any further scoring opportunities. Miami High wins it 13-10. They go on in the state 5A playoffs. So just how big is high school football becoming? Well, in Texas, maybe too big. 2 coaches from the New Waverly, Texas high school team have been suspended after one allegedly threatened to hang a student with an extension cord and the other put a starter's pistol to the young man's head. The men apparently were trying to convince the student to improve his grades so he could play football next year. The student has complained of nightmares and has refused to return to class, fearing that teachers will side with the coaches. Time for a reality check, people. It is only football. Tomorrow afternoon, the Miami Hurricanes finish off the 1990 regular season out west against San Diego State. If this one turns out to be the aerial show it appears to be on paper, maybe one of the most exciting games of the season. 6'8" San Diego quarterback Dan McGuire is averaging 350 yards a game and would love nothing more than to finish out his career by knocking off the Hurricanes.
Miami's coming in here number 2 or number 3, whatever poll you look at. It's my last game as an Aztec in our home stadium, our backyard. On national TV. What better way to go out than upsetting the number 2 team in the country? That'd be great.
Sunday, the Dolphins will be in Washington to meet the Redskins. Miami's secondary will have to contain the posse of receivers, Art Monk, Gary Clark, and Ricky Sanders. It won't be easy.
These guys are good. I can't sit here and say anything different because these guys are real good. Any given play could be a big play. I've watched Gary Clark turn a 5-yard hitch into a 70-yard touchdown pass, and these are the type of receivers we're facing this week.
The Tennis Davis Cup finals are underway in St. Petersburg, the United States hosting Australia. The U.S. will be led by Andre Agassi and Michael Chang, who have to overcome an Aussie team that is fueled with frustration. Davis Cup rules state that the court surface must be in general use in the host country, which would be hard court here in the U.S. But the Americans selected red clay, which is the slowest surface of all, and that has angered the fast-playing Aussies.
We've forgot all about it. We're going about our task of getting the team into the best shape possible under the conditions we're going to play. And we don't need to be fired up any more than the opportunity to play for your country in Davis Cup.
Well, the Aussies are fired up because Richard Fromberg has taken the first set of the first match against Agassi. Our adopted hockey team, the Chicago Blackhawks, took it on the chin last night at home, literally. Detroit Red Wings notorious bad guy Bob Probert duking it out with the Hawks' Bob McGill. Probert sends McGill to his knees once, keeps firing the right hand, and folks, this is a knockdown whether it's boxing or hockey. If the NHL has a heavyweight champ, it is Bob Probert. Detroit already up 3-0 when Joey Coker has the rare penalty shot. He fakes Jacques Cloutier, goes to the backhand and scores. 5-1 Wings is the final. As we mentioned, the reason Cambrell is not here today is that he is hosting the 2nd annual Cambrell Marshall Golf Tournament at the Calusa Country Club. Here's Cambrell on the green. The frustration sets in on the very first hole. Close, but not quite. Cambrell playing with our own Todd Tongan and former Dolphin Don McNeil, and if it wasn't for Mac, this group would be a no-hoper. Believe me, on the second hole, let's check out Cambrell's swing and watch this one. No, I don't think so. Cambrell's motto today, a bad day on the golf course beats any day at the office. I think we'll all second that. That'll do it for sports. I'll see you at 11 o'clock. Ann?
Thank you, Frank. When we come back, Don says the gray skies are going to clear up a little, but the wind isn't going anywhere. His complete forecast is next.
Eyewitness News will be right back for Hialeah, Miami Lakes, and your part of South Florida.
As we reported earlier, the jury in the trial of 6 Miami police officers is still deliberating. Eyewitness News reporter Mel Taylor is at the Miami Federal Courthouse and he joins us now with an update. What's happening, Mel?
Well, and at this point, the jury has decided to go ahead and order dinner, so it's going to be a while. The wait continues now for a verdict here at the federal court here in Miami. The jury is deciding whether or not 6 Miami police officers violated the civil rights of drug suspect Leonardo Mercado. Now, we're told at this point that if there is no verdict tonight, the jury will in fact come back tomorrow morning. And back to you.
Would they be sequestered overnight, Mel?
At this point, no. The jury has not been sequestered throughout the week, and at this point, I don't think they will change that.
All righty. Thank you for that live report. Dwight?
And let's get the latest in our weather word from Don. No, windbreakers, I take it, will be fashionable this week.
Yeah, I guess so. At least for tomorrow, though, the wind should drop off or die down, if you will, by Sunday. But right now, a 47-mile-per-hour wind if you're standing on the beach out there. And Dan Fabrizio said it was like a sandstorm if you were standing on the beach. And there's what it looked like earlier. Boy, there's some big rollers out there. I bet even the big ship is rolling around. Those guys kind of wish they were on shore right now. That's the way it looked earlier this afternoon. The pressure, 30-21, rising. Relative humidity is 71. Right now, at this hour, it's a northeast wind at 20, gusting to 26 at the airport. Inland on the beach, it's higher. Surf 78, sunrise 6:50, set time at 5:29. The temperature in Miami is 72, the beach is 74, Lauderdale 73, 73 at Kendall, 71 at West Palm Beach as of this hour. Our high temperature today is 77, the low temperature is 69, and just a trace of rain. 87, the record high in 1957, and 42, the record low in 1959. Looking at the pollen count today, it was in the high category again for the fourth day in a row. It was high, but the mold count today was low. Grasses and pollen and cladosporium for molds. All right, a strong northeast wind has been blowing all day thanks to a large pressure difference, high pressure to the north, low pressure to the south. That, of course, has been piling the water on shore. And from Miami north, where there'll be a little bit of minor coastal flooding, but a flood watch is up from Palm Beach northward because of the time of high tide coinciding with the time of the full moon, all that stuff. 6 in the morning, or 6 tonight, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and 7 again tomorrow night. Those are the high tide times and the times to watch out. So the windy weather down here, the front has actually gone through, leaving in its wake the showers and a few winds. We also have some light snow reported over Montana. Otherwise, it's clear and dry over much of the eastern part of the country, albeit cold. And here's the forecast. With the high pressure moving over to the east, our wind should shift from northeast to east and finally southeast by the end of the weekend. But at least for tomorrow, there will be enough moisture out there to bring showers again scattered across the southeast coast and showers across the Midwest and some rain and snow in the Pacific Northwest again tomorrow. Our satellite views from space in the northeast, a pretty day. Not much away of cloud cover. In Canada, a little bit up there, but most of the temperatures in the 40s in the northeastern United States this afternoon. Clear and sunny in the southeast, temperatures commonly in the 50s here, 60s in Orlando, 80 in Key West, and that was one of the higher temperatures in the entire country this afternoon. In the Midwest, we find a band of clouds, but no rain or snow with it, just cloudy right now. Temperatures are generally in the 40s and 50s up there. And in the western half of the United States, we find cloud cover in the Pacific Northwest. Also, this cloud cover starts from Arizona and moves northeast, but as I mentioned, not much in the way of rainfall or snowfall from this system. 42 in Boise for one of the temperatures out there. We'll zoom in on Florida here and show you our satellite and what's happening right there. This line of clouds that continues to hit Florida and bring the moisture in. Here's our radar loop going back 2 hours in time, and the showers in the light blue continue to move on shore, but most of these appear to be missing Dade and Broward and heading on into the upper Keys as of this hour. So our forecast for everyone, if you intend to boat tomorrow, be very careful. I know we've got a big boat race down in the Keys and Key West. It looks like it's going to be rough out there. A small craft advisory up, 20 to 25 knot winds from the northeast. Tonight, cloudy, windy, and showers, the low 68 degrees. Tomorrow should be sun and clouds kind of mixed, and we may have a shower tomorrow. It'll be breezy again, not quite as windy as today, but not too far from it. Sunday, a little better with partly sunny skies, a few showers. Monday, partly sunny, and Tuesday, partly cloudy as well with a shower in the afternoon. That's our forecast. Dwight.
Thank you, Don. And coming up tonight on Eyewitness News at 11, we'll keep you posted on the jury deliberations in the Mercado case. And tomorrow could be the first time since the Ice Age that it will be possible to walk from England to the continent. These reports and more coming up at 11. Ann?
Finally tonight, a lucky young nun from Yakima, Washington won a brand new red sports car, but she won't be cruising the streets in it. Sister Rebecca Berghoff is the principal of a struggling parochial school. They held a raffle to raise money. Now, one of the 30 tickets that she purchased was the winner. Sister Rebecca says it is not appropriate for a nun to be streaking around in a car like that, so she is returning the $13,000 Geo Storm. She plans to use the refund money on the school.
That's nice. That's the whole purpose, after all, right? That's it for us. ABC's World News Tonight is coming up next.
For Dwight, Don, Frank, the rest of the Eyewitness News team, you have a good evening and have a great weekend. And remember, we'll be looking for you again tonight at 11 o'clock.